Matt Rhule says offhand in answering a question about the Big Ten, he's like, I think we should have 4 Big Ten teams in the college football playoff every year. He said, this is the NFL of college football. And this got the reaction you would expect it to get on Twitter. 4 Big Ten? Are you 4 Big Ten teams? Well, you must have 6 SEC teams. What are they? 4 Big Ten teams every year? How do you figure that works, Coach Rhule? Okay, let's take a step back here. From the NFL aspect, like saying that this is the NFL of college football, from a draft perspective, the pushback there is totally fair. From a style of play perspective, though, look at how many fullbacks they got out there in the Big Ten. Kind of resembles the NFL in that regard. Like, shout out to fullbacks. They still exist in the Big Ten. Like, Big 44, Max Breedston from Michigan was absolutely trucking dudes in the college football playoff last year. He was leading the way. I mean, God bless anyone that got in his way, man. Like, from a style of play, from a run the ball, under center, pro-style offense, I think that probably hits a little bit more to what he was saying. Obviously, the SEC right now has much more talent than any other conference in college football, and the NFL feels the same way based on NFL draft picks. And that wasn't really what got as much pushback. The pushback was 4 teams, Coach Rhule, every year? Are we serious? Are we serious? And here's what I will secede. Every year, like an auto bid, that's pushing it, right? Like, that's a little bit of a stretch in my mind. Every single year to guarantee 4 spots for the Big Ten. I'm not saying it'll never happen. I'm just saying right now, I have a hard time getting on board with that. Even this year, like you look at Oregon, look at Ohio State, maybe Penn State, if they take care of business. We'll see what USC is. We'll see what Michigan is, even though they have a lot of returning production they're not bringing back. They still have some really talented pieces to make a run. Like, we'll see what they are this year. I would have a harder time getting behind 4 teams from the Big Ten this upcoming season. But, like, let's look to the future here. Like, let's zoom out a little bit. There's too many good coaches with too many big brands, with too many fan bases that have a large care factor, which matters now in NIL and which matters in recruiting, for these schools to stay down. And stay down is the wrong word to use, but to not end up being forces and be consistent college football playoff teams in the future. Like Penn State, they would have made 6 college football playoffs had we been in a 12-team model instead of the 4-team model. They've been in that dance, or been in the conversation for that dance, really for the better part of it, feels like every single year. I mean, Michigan just won a national championship last year. A lot of people look at their schedule, look at what they don't have coming back, and it's like, Michigan can make the college football playoff this year. But if you don't think they'll make it this year, look to the future. They're going to be in that discussion every single year going forward, in my opinion, based on what I believe about Sharon Moore. Look at USC. You think they're going to stay down? Like, if you had to bet money, USC will never make the college football playoff going forward, would you really feel good about making that bet? I don't think so. Lincoln Riley, his track record is far too strong. Say what you want about his defense. Dude develops the most important position in football and wins a lot of games. Say what you want about his defense. He wins a lot of games. Wisconsin, hand up, I've been off on Wisconsin before, but like, Luke Fickell has made the college football playoff with a G5 team. You don't think at some point he's going to take Wisconsin there in a 12-team model? I think he's going to do it. This year, I don't know, but I think he's going to do it at some point. So, like, you keep going down the list here, all these Big Ten teams that have too much, I believe, behind them to stay down is the wrong word, but to not make the dance or not be contenders for the dance every single year. We will live in a 12-team playoff era where we see, I believe, 4 Big Ten teams make it. Every year, that's a little bit rich. But 4 teams, I do not think that's a stretch. Like, think about what you would take from the Big Ten over other conferences. I'd take a 10-2 Big Ten team over a 10-2 ACC team based on the strength of conference solely. Honestly, I think I'd feel probably pretty good about taking a 10-2 Big Ten team over a 10-2 Notre Dame right now. And that's not to knock Notre Dame. It's just what I know about the conference, what I know they're having to do every single week, the grind of that schedule now, adding in these 4 teams. I didn't even mention Michigan State with Jonathan Smith. I think he'll end up having success there. Washington, we just saw them play for the college football national championship a season ago. I get Kalen DeBoer left, but like we've seen them be successful as well. So like, as the landscape shifts, I understand that there's a lot of kickback on, well, 4 teams, who do they think they are? I haven't even said anything about Nebraska. I think Matt Rhule's going to win at a high level based on the history that he's had. I'm just saying. This year, 4 Big Ten teams, probably a little bit rich. Every year, I have a harder time getting behind that. But every other year, every couple of years, I would not be surprised if we saw 4 Big Ten teams in the college football playoff for all the reasons I just mentioned. So Twitter ran with it. Twitter does what Twitter does. But that's not nearly as crazy as it sounds. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.